Hello and welcome to our first lesson of the Intuition Connection Summer School for 2023 with me, Ruth Ann Richards. I'm the creator of the Intuition Connection, author of Reclaim Your Intuition, and I'm running this series of Summer School to help you understand more about intuition and to help you get to feel comfortable with it. Before we get started, I just want to cover a few logistics. You get to watch all these lessons in your own time. And I encourage you to find a really comfortable place to do it. Get yourself settled with a journal and a notebook, a cup of tea, plenty of water, and just enjoy it. Wear comfy clothes. If you're in your pyjamas and dressing gown, that's fine. Do it at a time that works for you. Do it at a time when you're relaxed and when you're not going to have any interruptions. You may choose to watch it all the way through and come back to certain bits to listen to again. Or you may listen to something, stop, want to make your own notes in your journal, and then carry on again. You get to choose how you want to do this. All I would say is, if you hear something and you think, oh, I do want to go back and watch that again, make the commitment to yourself that you do that. Don't just think, oh yeah, I'll go back and look at that, with no intention of doing it and never coming back to it. Treat this as something that you're learning for yourself that is going to help you feel differently about intuition and feel differently about your life. So if you're settled in a comfortable place and you've got your pen and paper, you've got your cuppa, let's get started. Our lesson for week 1 is what is intuition and where does it come from? Now, before I get started, I have to tell you, I could talk about intuition for ages and I'm likely to go off at a tangent. So I've got plenty of notes here. If you see me looking at my notes, that's to keep me on track and make sure I'm sharing with you the information that I need to share and to stop me going off track. I've had many years thinking about this question, what is intuition and where does it come from? And I'd like to start with, to understand intuition, first of all, we need to understand the different parts of ourselves. So you're probably familiar with the conscious mind. That's the piece of us that's rational, analytical, logical. It'll make a list of pros and cons and tick things off. And even though there's no pros on the rational list for doing something, you may still get that niggle inside that says, oh, I know this pros list says I should, but it doesn't feel right. And that niggle is your intuition. So we have so many different parts of us that we find it difficult to understand. We have our conscious mind, there's an unconscious or subconscious mind which has all the crazy dreams at night time, and then there's this other part of us, this intuitive part. And it's important to understand this to start with, because the conscious mind is where the second guessing and the imposter lives. So all those things that say, oh, should I, shouldn't I don't know if it's the right thing, who am I to do this, I don't deserve this, maybe you've experienced some of that yourself. That kind of lives in the conscious mind. It's this part of us that's rational, analytical and logical and has to have a reason and an explanation for everything. The intuitive part of us doesn't need any rationality, it doesn't need any explanation, it just is. I believe that we need all these different parts of us to live a healthy and empowered life. Sometimes we need our conscious mind to help us think rationally about something, but more often than not, we need that intuitive part of us. And the purpose of summer school is to help you understand more about intuition, this intuitive part of us, and how it can help us feel empowered, and that our intuitive part of us has the same value and the same standing as our conscious mind. Our conscious mind often runs the show, it's ego, and it often drowns out the intuitive part of us. So over the next 8 weeks, we're going to listen more to this intuitive part of us. So let's have a look at a definition of intuition to start with, because by now your conscious mind is kind of wondering, what is all this about? So let's help our conscious mind understand what intuition is about. Now, if you look up some definitions online and in dictionaries, you get lots of definitions that talk about things that are unexplained, there's no reasoning or evidence or proof for it. So already intuition is kind of shrouded in this mystery, that there's no evidence for it, there's no proof, there's no reasoning to explain it. And that's why intuition can feel so scary to many of us, because it's unexplained, it's perceived as unexplained, and there's no evidence for it. But let me tell you what I think intuition is, okay? I think intuition is something that we know. We haven't learnt it in formal education, we haven't been taught it, we haven't read it, we haven't heard it. It's a knowing that we have. So intuition is another form of knowing. And that knowing could come to you in the form of a thought like a bolt from the blue. So, you know, when a thought comes into your mind out of nowhere about something you hadn't even been thinking about, I believe that's intuition getting your attention. It's getting your attention away from your conscious mind to bring some information to you. It could be a sense you have of something. Have you ever walked into a building and felt kind of either it was a really happy place or perhaps it was an unhappy place? It's just, can you see my body's doing it so I talk about it? It's just that sense we get about something. But very often, intuition is a physical feeling. It's something that you feel in your gut, and we're going to come back to that. But it also could be an image or a picture that you get in your mind's eye, something that kind of just passes through and you kind of almost missed it and wondered, was that really real? So intuition is a knowing, and that knowing is information. Intuition brings you information, and we experience that information in many different physical ways. So let's talk about gut feeling. Gut feeling is the term that we use on an everyday basis to show that we've got an intuitive feeling. Oh, I've got a gut feeling about this situation, this person. Oh, I feel it in my gut. I know it in my gut. It's a phrase we use quite a lot, and that phrase, gut feeling, is very acceptable in society. It's culturally acceptable to us, which is why the phrase gets used a lot. You know, say, no, I've got an intuitive feeling, or my intuition tells me. Yeah, some people do use that, but it's not as readily accepted as, oh, my gut feeling tells me, or I've got a gut feeling about something. And gut is really important in intuition. In fact, the whole abdomen area is really important in intuition, and especially for women. So you've probably heard that the gut is called a second brain in the body. The gut is and the abdomen is an amazing area of communication to all different parts of our body for the things that need to happen in our body, for all these activities that are going on to keep us healthy and well. It communicates with our brain, it communicates to every other part of our body. So it's this amazing system that's going on down there. We think everything's happening up here, and actually it's not. More of it is happening down in the abdomen area. It's also the abdomen, the gut area is also the intuitive and spiritual home of 3 chakras that I want you to know about. So I'm guessing you're familiar with chakras, but chakras are an old spiritual Sanskrit term to reflect power centers or energy centers in the body. And we have several through the body, but for right now, we're going to focus on 3 in the abdomen area. Kind of at the bottom right at the pit of our stomach, we have the base or root chakra. A little further up, we have a sacral chakra, and just below our heart, we have the solar plexus. Now, the base or root chakra is about being grounded. It's about a sense of security and feeling safe. And that's emotional groundedness as well as physical, more so than physical groundedness. It's about feeling secure in who we are and the worlds that we live in. The sacral chakra is about how we experience life. Do you experience it with fear or joy? And the solar plexus is a place of self-power and confidence. So all those things that are related to our emotional state are down in the abdomen area of our physical body. Isn't that interesting? We think it all comes from our mindset, and it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Mindset is not everything. It's more important to know about the heart and the abdomen area, about how we feel about our life. And this lower part of the body, the abdomen area, is so important to women, right? It's how we experience life. It's where we experience pleasure. It's where women give birth. We have our periods. There's so much going on down there. It's a complex part of our body. So when you understand this, you can start to understand why we would feel our intuition in the gut area, why we feel it in the abdomen. So if we just accept that kind of when we're feeling overwhelmed and off balance and not grounded, or we're lacking in security, or we've taken a dip in confidence, do you get tummy trouble? Do you get that sense of something's not right here? You are unwell, you have gastrointestinal issues, or something happens. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because we ignore so much of what's going down on in the abdomen area to pay attention to what's going on in our head. So once we accept that gut feeling is a real thing and that intuition comes to us physically and we can feel it a lot down here, things start to make more sense. So I'd like to share with you some of the physical sensations I've experienced around intuition and gut feeling in the abdomen area, and see if this happens to you. The shivers. There's a phrase, isn't there, when you get the shivers down your back, you say someone's walked over your grave. I don't believe someone has walked over your grave. I think that is just a very old saying. But the reason the saying exists is, there's something otherworldly about the shivers. It's someone is close by you, perhaps, who has passed, and that's why you may get the shivers. Not all the time. Sometimes you get the shivers because something is scary and doesn't feel right. So if you ever get that little shiver that goes down the back of your body, that's an intuitive feeling. Goosebumps. I get the goosebumps kind of on my skin, but sometimes I feel them inside as well. It's just this feeling of, something's bumpy inside. It's similar to the shivers. Sometimes I kind of feel a little nudge on my shoulder, or my shoulder just moves on its own. Again, it's just a little physical feeling to tell me to take note. Intuition wants me to listen. And those butterflies you get in your abdomen, butterflies of excitement, it's telling you something exciting is coming. And equally, it can also tell you when you're nervous. You probably feel when you're nervous down there. So there's all these physical things that happen to us that we don't pay attention to because we don't understand the importance of them. But these things are there to give you a nudge, to help you know. They're a sign to tell you that intuition is trying to get your attention. I'm just going to pause here for a moment and just let you absorb some of what I've told you so far. And I just want to share an empowerment tip with you. So there's no homework in summer school, but here's something you can try for yourself if you're serious about learning more about intuition. So over the next week, I just want you to notice what is happening in your body. Make a few notes in your journal. Just pay a bit more attention to, do you get the shivers? Do you get the goosebumps? Do you get a sensation or a feeling that just rises kind of up your body? And do you feel yourself going red in the face? It's not always embarrassment. It's not always blushing. It could be something else. Just pay attention to the physical sensations that are going on in your body. And when you notice that physical sensation, look around what's going on. Do you get that physical sensation when dealing with a certain situation? Is it a reaction to the person you're dealing with? Or is it something else around you that makes you feel comfortable or uncomfortable? So, for example, it may be that you're in a conversation with someone, but you don't feel they're being very truthful with you, or you feel they're hiding something, or you feel they're not interested in you. You often get a physical sensation to let you know that that's the case. So for the next week, just pay attention to the physical sensations that happen. You don't have to do anything about them at this point. It's just about noticing and becoming more aware about it. And just make a few little notes for yourself in your journal. And you can look back at it at the end of the week and find out what insights you have. So now that you understand a bit better the connection between feelings and intuition, particularly in the abdomen and the gut area, that our feelings and intuition are very much tied up together in talking to one another, I want to go back to the definitions that we talked about at the start. And words like unreasoned, unexplained, lacking evidence were words that are used in definitions to explain intuition. Now, I want to call BS on that. I don't believe any of that to be true. I just think that's what society believes. And we live in this patriarchal society that values rational, analytical, logical thinking above all. And remember, what we're doing is we're saying that intuition and intuitive feeling and knowing has the same value as the rational, analytical, conscious mind. So for me, there is evidence. There is my evidence. There is what I feel when I get an intuitive hit. There's what I know about intuition. There may not be any scientific evidence because, hey, science has never studied this stuff. It has no interest in it because it doesn't believe in it and it doesn't believe it's real. But I do believe it. And if you kind of believe it, but you're kind of struggling as well because you know it's not accepted in society, take some of my confidence until you grow your own. This stuff is real and I believe it. And I have my own evidence of signs that intuition has given me, of intuitive knowing I've had, of oracle messages that I've had that have guided me to make better decisions for my life, for things that I could not have known about for myself. I have my own personal evidence based on my experience, and that to me is incredibly valuable. So all these definitions about it being unreasoned and explained and no evidence, I don't buy into those definitions at all. I have my own experience. And one of the things that's really important when you're learning to reconnect and reclaim your intuition is to look at your experience as well, which is why with the empowerment tip, asking you to notice and be aware of the feelings you have, you're starting to build your own personal experience. And the more experience you get of this, and the more you go, oh, I see how this is real, I see how it works, I believe it, the easier life becomes and you feel more empowered. So just because society doesn't rate intuition, just because it doesn't believe in it and says there's no evidence for it, that doesn't mean that we have to believe that. I have my own belief. I know it's real from my own experience. And you can gain that experience for yourself too. So now if you're thinking, okay, well, if those definitions are wrong and you don't believe in them, Ruth, and what is intuition? So I'm going to read something to you from my book Reclaim Your Intuition because it just explains it the best way I know. So let me talk to you about intuitive knowing. I explain intuitive knowing as getting a download or receiving a message because that is my experience of it. If you are starting out on getting more connected to your intuition, it is likely that your intuitive knowing is going to be reactive, meaning you get downloads or a message from the universe. For example, driving a different route could be a reactive intuitive download. The thought came into your head seemingly from nowhere, meaning you had not been previously consciously or thoughtfully considering taking a different route. I call that a reactive download. Reactive being that it comes to you without you asking for it. Over the course of reclaiming your intuition, you work more proactively on connecting with your intuition through meditation and other methods. When I first started paying more attention to my intuition, it was nearly all reactive, and I love reactive messages. However, being able to proactively connect to intuition is now equally as vital to me. So that's what intuitive knowing is. It's taking in the messages and it's looking for the signs. So what I'd like to do now is ask you to just trust, sit in a comfortable position, or lie down if that's where you're comfortable. Just have your feet flat on the floor to help you ground yourself. And take 3 deep breaths and close your eyes. And with each deep breath in through the nose, Just imagine you're breathing in pure white light. And with each breath out through the mouth, imagine breathing out grey clouds. And after the third deep breath, allow your breathing to find its natural pace. And now, I'd just like you to stay still for as long as you can. Stop this video if you need to, and then start it again when you're ready. But stay still for as long as you can and focus on your breathing. Just pay attention to where you feel your heart going, in and out, or where you feel the rise of the air, and feel the air in the rise and fall of your stomach or your chest. And after you've sat still for as long as you can, take a deep breath again and open your eyes. And just notice what happened to your mind during that time. Did you stay focused on your breathing, or did you have thoughts flying in and out? Maybe what to have for dinner or tea? Or did any thoughts come to you that were just unusual or about something you hadn't been thinking about? This is a great exercise to understand which are thoughts from the conscious mind and which are perhaps intuitive thoughts. Intuition likes a calm, quiet place in order to reach us. So with the breathing and focusing on one thing, it calms down the conscious mind and it allows a space for intuitive knowing and intuitive thoughts to come in. Do this as often as you like, practice it over the next week if you wish, but even if you get no intuitive thoughts, that's fine. It's a great exercise just to learn to calm yourself and start to learn how to create the space to bring in intuition. In that quiet time of intuitive knowing, intuition for me feels like a super sense that I have. It's a superhuman sense, if I can say it, that I have. It's an early warning system. It's an alarm. It lets me know when I'm off track with life. It lets me know when my conscious mind has taken over. It lets me know to stay more positive about things, what actions to take. Intuition has provided some of my best inspiration and ideas for me. It's supportive, but most of all, when I allow that intuitive knowing in, I feel completely empowered. I can put boundaries in place, I can say yes, I can say no, I can live the life that is right for me and do the right things for me and support other people. And that's the power of intuitive knowing, and that's what I would love more women to feel, this empowerment of intuitive knowing that makes life easier for you. That's quite a lot that we've talked about what is intuition, and we've started to touch on words that come from in terms of our physical body, but actually intuition comes from another place. Our physical body is really the radio receiver to receive intuitive knowing and messages, but where does it come before it reaches us? I have pondered this question for many, many years because my intuition works on many different senses. I can hear things that other people can't hear. I can see things that other people can't see. I know things and sense things and feel things that other people can't. So for most of my life, I was like, well, if other people haven't got, I thought everybody had it for a while, but when I realised other people didn't, I'm like, well, where is this coming from? Because I know I'm sane, but this stuff has to be coming from somewhere. I've read a lot over the years and taken courses and watched documentaries and films, but ultimately I've come to my own perspective and viewpoint of where is this intuitive knowing coming from. And here's my view that I'm going to share with you. You get to make your own mind up. That's the whole point of summer school. I share what I know. You can choose whether to agree with it or not and what works for you. I see intuition as a communication system with the otherworldly. The otherworldly may be the universe, spirit, Mother Nature, Gaia, God, goddesses. You get to choose what you call the otherworldly, okay? I tend to call it spirit of the universe, spirit, or Mother Nature. I use those terms interchangeably because for me, it's not just one thing. I believe there's something more than what we can see in the world. There has to be, because we can't see our minds, we can't see our consciousness, we can't touch it, but we feel it, so therefore we know it exists. And on that basis, I think there must be something else out there in the universe and the cosmos that helps us with intuitive knowing. I know it sounds far-fetched, but at some point we do have to get to grips with what we believe as adults, especially if we believe our intuition is coming from somewhere. For me, that also explains why some people use their intuition as mediums, that you can tap into these messages that exist out there from people who've passed. And it's nothing to be scared of. Intuitive knowing, in my experience, has always come to help me or support me. It has always improved my life. It's nothing to be scared of. So intuition for me is this communication system. We are a radio receiver. The universe is the transmitter. And that's how the universe, spirit, the frequencies, the vibrations that exist around the cosmos, it's how they talk to us as humans and the otherworldly. You know, people say, can we connect with what's going on out there? I believe that we do. I believe they're already doing it. And when we are receptive and open and we recognise these messages, life becomes easier. And those messages might be a sign. So have you ever seen a feather drop down in front of you and you don't know where it's come from? And there is a view that when you see a feather, it's kind of a loved one who's passed coming to say hello to you and give you a message. How wonderful is that? That's not scary. That's comforting and it's thoughtful and it helps us. But that's the kind of communication we're talking about. It's the sign of a feather. You maybe see a coin on the floor. My sign in my family is butterflies. If we're receptive and open. But as humans, we come with a lot of baggage, don't we? We have conditioning from childhood of how we were raised, what we taught and took in at school with our peers, and when we start work and we start to shape our own beliefs about the world, whether the world is a good place or a bad place or both. So our transmitter sometimes gets closed down and we're not open and receptive to it because of all this conditioning that we have. And it's okay. We just need to be aware of that. And once you are aware of it, you can start to choose whether or not you want to open up your radio receiver to receive more signs from the universe. And if some of this still freaks you out a little bit or you feel a little bit scared, I understand that. I remember feeling like that for many, many years. Just remember this. As humans, we have this amazing concept that we get to choose. We can choose to be open to receiving some messages, and we can choose not to. And if you are at the point of your intuitive adventure where you're just curious and interested in learning and you're not ready to receive messages, that's okay. You just say to the universe, no messages for me, thanks. And the universe will respect that. If you're starting to feel a little bit more open, you can ask the universe for a sign. Choose an object or an animal or a bird or something that has meaning for you and ask the universe to send that to you as a sign. It could be the actual bird or animal, or it could be an image or a picture or something you hear in a song. Ask and see what happens. But you have a choice, and I really want to stress this. If you really are just curious and interested in learning, there's nothing you have to do right now. You don't have to do anything. You just listen, learn, observe, and pay attention to what goes on for you. And you just let the universe know that your radio receiver is closed off right now. And that's perfectly okay. And if you're opening up a little bit right now in your intuitive adventure and you just want to turn the dial up a little bit so the universe can find you and send you a sign, ask for your sign now, ask for it with full intent, and wait and see what happens. And that, my lovely friends, brings us to the end of week 1 of Summer School, What is Intuition, and Where does it come from? We've covered quite a lot, so let me do a recap. So we've talked about what is intuition. And intuition is intuitive knowing. It's things we know, but we haven't learnt it from school, we've not been taught it, it's not anything we've read, it's not anything anyone has told us. It's just something that we happen to know. And it comes to us in our physical body, particularly in our abdomen area. So now you understand more about the importance of your abdomen and your gut feeling in living an intuitive life, and why it's important to take care of that area of our bodies. And when there is some illness and tummy trouble or something going on down there, why we need to pay attention to it, because the universe is trying to get our attention. We also know that, definitions of intuition from society are about it being unreasoned, no explanation, no evidence. And we know differently. We know that there are people like me who have their own evidence. You probably have some of your own evidence too. So we can believe in that, and we should believe in that. Just because society says there's no evidence for it doesn't mean we have to jump on that bandwagon. We've got these 3 chakras in our abdomen area for our power and security and self-confidence. Let's just sit with those in our abdomen and know that we have our own evidence, and that is perfectly okay, and no one can decry our evidence because it's ours. We've also learned that intuition is a communication system. Well, that's my view. You've learnt my view. You get to choose whether you believe it or not. Intuition is a communication system with the otherworldly, with the universe or the spirit, however you want to term the otherworldly. And it's how it sends us messages and signs to help us to navigate our life, our spiritual life on this earthly planet, in a much easier way, and it helps us feel empowered. You also know that as humans we've got choice. We don't always have to step into our intuitive self. If it's too much, if it's overwhelming, overbearing, and fearful, you can just say no to the universe and you can stop. You also know that intuition likes some quiet time. So if you can this week, take some quiet time. Just sit for as still as long as you can, even if it's just 30 seconds. Focusing on your breathing. And just notice how your body changes, particularly the abdomen area. And just see if any intuitive thoughts come in if you're prepared to do that. You also know as well that the homework, should you want to do it, and it's not real homework, it's just pay attention to what's going on in your body this week. Just notice if it's an ache or a pain or a tingle, if it's the goosebumps, the shivers. Just make a note. On Tuesday this happened, I felt this. And then look at what's going on around you at the immediate time when it happens, and see if there's any connections you can make and any insights you might get. You might not get the insights until much later, but just pay attention to and notice it. And that's the recap for week 1. Thank you for joining me for week 1 of the Intuition Summer School. I hope it has been enlightening. I hope you have some insights, and I hope it's made you think about what you believe as well, whether some of what I've said has resonated with you and you believe, or whether some of it's made you think differently. Either way, that's good. Next time, we're going to talk more about the otherworldly. So we've touched on it already. That's where the source of intuition comes from. But we're going to look at next time about beliefs, belief systems, the otherworldly, the conditioning we've taken on as children, and what we can believe as adults. So that will be an interesting discussion for next week. If you have any questions, anything you want me to explain in more detail, any clarity, leave me a comment, or you can email me. The email will come up at the end, and it'll be also in the post with this video, just drop me an email and I'll be happy to help you. But I wish you a wonderfully intuitive week. Deep breath, pay attention to what's going on in the abdomen area and to your sensations and feelings. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week for week 2.